we just fought against that for a long time, and it took us being broke for a while, some of us. Not being too focused on the outcome of monetary reward was the thing that kept us going.
There's no denying that Storror are the kings of parkour on YouTube, but how did they get there and what can we learn from their incredible success? We're going to hear from the Storrors, but first, what do I mean when I say they beat the YouTube algorithm? Well, as far as I'm aware, they've yet to infiltrate YouTube's UK headquarters and hack into the mainframe. What I'm referring to instead is their consistent refusal to make any content that doesn't involve them just hitting the streets and finding creative parkour challenges as they've always done. Yet that doesn't fit into any of the categories for successful content on YouTube. Working off data from several Google surveys of YouTube viewing habits, Influencer Marketing Hub found that the most successful content on YouTube was funny animals, video game walkthroughs, how-to guides, product reviews, celebrity gossip videos, vlogs, comedy sketch videos, shopping sprees, unboxing videos, educational videos, parodies, and pranks. The only category that Storror sort of fits into here is vlogs.
Everybody seems to have quite large bags on them today. What could we be doing on a sunny day? Shut up!
But I would argue that even their vlogs are far removed from the reality TV style of most YouTubers.
We've got an entire 53-foot semi-truck of play balls,
Who plan a series of exciting activities an audience can relate to and then play up their personalities to make the events as sensational as possible. With Storror, the far majority of their audiences don't do parkour, so there's very little relatability there, and their personalities only get played up to the degree that Callum does an impromptu comedy sketch from time to time.
Properly think about it, lucky that he's shouting parkour, because otherwise, like, how would we have known?
Yes, boys.
And the biggest compromises they seem to make for them in the name of getting content out are just adding loose competition formats to what is otherwise normal parkour training.
Next spotty, next roundy.
So with like the street rats kind of vlogs that you do, for example, how close do you think they get to what you would get if the cameras are off and you're all just out for a session?
I think pretty spot on, I guess. Maybe like playing up to the camera a bit more, like what we say and stuff, of course, but that's only natural. Like,
I think over the years, everyone's become more and more comfortable with a camera being put in their face, and it's like naturally, like based on what we know works. Like, yeah, that took a long time. It took us years to like just relax in front of camera, I think.
Had this in a long time.
The moment you're holding a camera, like you're thinking from an audience perspective to a degree, so it's always going to affect the dynamic.
Little tip for like sandy walls, always finish it with a blow. Just cause, you know, there's still some loose dirt up, and now, yeah, that's nice.
And like, I don't need to ask Ben why he's checking that brick or why he's doing that prep, but I know that like, oh, I'm holding a camera, like the people inside that camera on YouTube might want to know. But in terms of just like fucking about, having fun and doing challenges like this, it's identical.
Yeah. Nice.
In pursuit of a career as a parkour content creator, every athlete or team faces the same dilemma. Do I sacrifice making the content that's authentic to me in order to achieve views? And if so, where do I draw the line? Callum has some very strong opinions on this.
What is your view on athletes who make content like your superhero POVs, your TikTok comedy sketches, your backflips in public, that kind of gimmicky but still borderline parkour content?
I think it massively delegitimizes what we do from an athletic standpoint, and as well as from what parkour can give people in terms of like value to their lives. The stuff that people are doing now is absolutely crazy. Like, no humans have done this stuff before. We shouldn't need to associate ourselves with all these meme-y kind of things like Spider-Man, Assassin's Creed and everything to be able to shine as we should. What we do is so sick that it should be able to stand alone without being memified. Like what Red Bull is doing. Just take Dom to a good spot and let him go wild. I've said it twice now. Like, it's good enough. And I think we're just not doing it the service that it deserves by memifying it and associating it with this bullshit, essentially. But on the flip side of that, there are a lot of people that are very young Ronnie Chalvez and Nick Provost and Nitro Parkour, like I didn't even know who Nick Provost was until earlier this year, and like luckily my algorithm on YouTube has protected me from that bullshit. Like, thank God. But it has its purpose. It's lighting the spark for them to get into parkour, and then they're coming to their local parkour gyms in fucking Iowa or whatever, and they're fueling our industry. And maybe one day they'll grow out of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Spider-Man and fidget spinners and Pokemon Go and shit, and they'll actually get really good at parkour, and maybe they'll end up on the Motus Flow team, or maybe they'll be a parkour coach themselves. It's a double-edged sword. I think it solves a purpose in one way. In our minds, it's not fucking cool, but cool is completely subjective, because what's cool for us, we like parkour being like countercultural, rooftopy, and like about challenging yourself mentally and physically. But young kids, what they think is cool is Minecraft parkour and fidget spinners, and seeing people dress as wanky Marvel superheroes doing backflips to superhero landing and stuff, and Goku parkour.
In this regard, Storror are the kings of authentic parkour content. Every video is either a vlog of them doing exactly what they love to do, hitting satisfying parkour challenges on the streets, or a quality piece of real filmmaking that they seem really invested in. The furthest they seem to have strayed from the path of true authentic content is their notorious Race the Tube London video, in which they pretended to race the tube in London, but it was actually fake.
Scouted the route and like found some shortcuts that save time. Max is going to be filming it all on the GoPro.
We, of course, play the game, but we've always tried to not pollute our values and what we think is cool. We've tried to always create what we think is cool as well. And sometimes we've gone a bit too far, and then like luckily we like teeter, like we all balance each other out and bring each other back to the real world.
Not doing that again.
Was one of them the Race the Tube video?
Yeah, tube race. Oh my god. Don't watch it.
We still get people now rocking up like, oh, like so cool to meet you guys. My favourite video, like Race the Tube, and just back in your head, like, you're like, no. So sorry, man. Can we tell them? Like, depending on the person, you gotta tell them, and other people, you're just like, wow, he really loves that video. Like, I can't tell him.
You can't ruin it for him.
However, the parkour community seems to have forgiven them for this, as weekly enjoyable videos have streamed in ever since. Of course, Storror's massively viral content has been their POVs, yet they contain no gimmicks or superhero costumes, and the only real sacrifice they make is to chuck a GoPro in their mouth. So all in all, they're pretty much as authentic as all the rest of their content. And as a team of 7 guys, they seem to keep each other in check so that they are always making content that they can be proud of, regardless of whether it's a quantifiable success.
When you're solo as well, like you don't have this bouncing of intentions and ideas, and it's probably way easier to become the social media scientist and let your intentions become polluted and just be like a slave to the algorithm and compete in the attention Olympics.
Because you're in a bubble of your own followers, aren't you? Obviously all your followers love you, like that's standard, that's why they're following you. And if you stay in that bubble, you run the risk of going weird. But
To explain what I mean, let's take a look at the complete other end of the spectrum. Kira Kolesnikov. He was easily one of the best freerunners in the world and a beloved member of the parkour community back in 2016. I even joined him and Team Crap on their tour around Europe for a while. Yet there was one thing I distinctly remember from that trip, which is that he was entirely self-obsessed. We asked him at one point to play a parkour video of someone that inspired him, and he refused to play anything other than his own videos, stating that I'm only inspired by myself. Anyway, it was around then that he started making this so-called inauthentic content. And for a while he found absolutely no success with content that was more cringe than funny and became the laughingstock of the parkour community. But eventually it started to gain traction, and 5 years later he is the most followed TikToker in Russia. He also has over 1 million subs on YouTube on a channel where all he posts is his vertical TikTok videos. So who's laughing now, I guess? And who am I to say what is authentic and inauthentic for someone? Perhaps Kira is truly at his happiest and most fulfilled when he's slapping his girlfriend's ass on camera for millions of people to see. There are actually quite a few athletes such as Pedro Salgado, Oliver Norden and the Pawson twins who, without going completely overboard like Kira, have built careers on the back of trendy YouTube content, and I say fair play to them. It's not like that's the only content they make. There are also Storror style training vlogs and mini competition videos in there, but the view counts don't even come close. And even if themed POVs are not the content they are most passionate about, at the end of the day, they're making money doing what they love, and they don't have to work as a garbage man at 4 AM every morning. So I reckon that as long as you're not entirely degrading the face of the sport and you're still a passionate athlete, then more successful parkour content creators are always a good thing, even if they have to chuck on a Spider-Man suit now and then. However, you might notice the biggest difference between Storror and these guys. Storror is a team, which allows them to delegate tasks and be more consistent, the not so secret key to YouTube success. For years, their fan base has known exactly when and where to expect their weekly dose of Storror and have been able to re-up without fail once or even twice per week. No one will stay addicted to a drug that they can't have on a regular basis. I'm not going to cover a chronological history of Storror here, as Callum from Content already did that nicely in his video, The Impossible Rise of Storror. But instead, let's ask Storror exactly what advice they would give to an aspiring parkour YouTuber.
I mean, just don't let it become a job. Don't get super reward driven. Like, don't let that be the main thing that is getting you out of bed to train. Find a group of mates that you really enjoy training with, that enjoy training just as much as you.
That's the hard bit. That's the hard bit.
Yeah, that's the hardest bit. And life pulling you from different directions, and like what I call the parkour midlife crisis, like early to mid 20s and everything, when like the prospect of uni and a career and everything, like you want to get this stability in the bag, like to set you up for life. That's pulling you. And we just fought against that for a long time, and it took us being broke for a while, some of us. I guess like not being too focused on the outcome of monetary reward was the thing that kept us going.
And the fact that we've got here simply through a bit of aspiration and teamwork is easily the most rewarding feeling of my life by far.
What's funny is that Storror don't seem to follow any of the standard advice when it comes to marketing a YouTube video release. I mean, just look at their thumbnails. No YouTube faces, no colorful outlines, no text, just simple screen grabs. Just look at that one from the Morocco POV. It's hardly eye-catching, and it gives very little information about the video. But Storror couldn't care less. Easy 75 million views. They also use very little hashtags, and their titles are often super low-key and undersell their videos in my opinion. However, you might say, but Max, they have great content, and they absolutely do, but there are other teams who also have great content and do only see a fraction of the views that Storror pull in, which brings me to my final point. Longevity. Storror has been in the game for 10 years, and back then they were some of the only people making this style of content. They kept putting in the work, making the videos, and leveling it up so their audience grew right along with them. So even if their content back then was almost entirely movement driven, over time their personalities managed to shine through, and people, many of whom had never shown any significant interest in parkour, found themselves craving the next installment of Storror antics. So now every other parkour channel or team is playing catch up, and probably will be for quite some time. I for one am glad that Storror are on top, as they have shown time and time again their love for the parkour community, which they consistently try to highlight and give back to. They also promote a clean and safe parkour style.
Oh, bro. Oh, my fucking head.
Or at least they do now, which is really important mentality to be instilling in the next generation of athletes that they inspire. So what's the takeaway from this for an aspiring YouTuber? Well, I believe that it's success on YouTube can be found with any kind of content that you're truly passionate about creating with one essential ingredient. You have to do it consistently for years. Of course, the biggest rebuttal to that is to simply say, it doesn't matter how passionate you are about the content, if it's bad content, then no one will watch it. And while that's true to a degree, those years of consistency are not just to produce a series of identical videos and hope you accrue an audience, they are to improve as a creator. If enough of your stuff is out there and you manage to consistently improve the quality of content over time, I really see it as a matter of not if, but when you will accrue an audience and grow your channel. That's not to say that viral style content isn't a massive asset when you're trying to grow your channel. It certainly is, but the only way you're going to stay consistent on YouTube while trying to live and manage your life and make money is if you really love what you're making. At least that's the mentality I've taken since I had just like 100 subscribers. And of course, I'm still a very small channel, but I've seen enough success stories to understand that the work that I put in at this stage is just as important as the work that I put in when I have 10 or even 100 times the subscribers, because each stage must be worked through just as devotedly in order to reach the next. Thanks so much for watching all the way through, and if this has helped you in any way, please drop a comment and let me know how. I'd love to see any content you're working on, especially within the parkour space, and subscribe for more stuff like this. Let me know what other stuff like this you'd like to see, and we'll see you in the next one.